Hi, Jack Malcolm here, and in this video I'm going to talk about Max Cred factor number 2, content. Now, in Max Cred factor number 1, we talked about credentials, and if credentials are like the down payment on somebody's belief, content is what completes the transaction. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear right here. Of the 7 factors of Max Cred, content is absolutely the most important. I'm not interested in teaching you how to develop skin deep credibility where you can fool all of the people some of the time and some of the people all of the time. Content is absolutely critical because if you want to sound like you know what you're talking about, it kind of helps actually know what you're talking about. Content is also ethical because when you develop the superpowers of Max Cred, I want you to develop those powers for good. So people are going to believe what comes out of your mouth, so you have an obligation to make sure that you've got solid content. So what I want to talk about are 2 concepts. One is 3D expertise, and the other one is pressure testing your ideas. So what is 3D expertise? 3D expertise is having depth, breadth, and height to your expertise. So let's start with those one by one. Depth is what most people think of when they think of expertise, and that is knowing your material deeply enough so that when people ask you questions about it and scratch beneath the surface, they can tell that there's a solid foundation of knowledge below that. Now, one of the things that's really helpful, and a lot of people tend to kind of poo-poo this nowadays in this Google age where everybody says, I don't need to know anything, I can always Google that. That's wrong. One of the best ways to demonstrate credibility is not only to be able to answer with detail when people ask you questions, but to know those details from memory, not having to refer back to your slides or not having to look at something. There's tremendous power in being able to rattle off details and being able to rattle off names, and people are very impressed by that, especially nowadays when few people seem to really learn their material that well. One caveat to keep in mind is don't lead with depth, because if you lead with depth, you tend to give way too much information and you can lose your audience. Second is breadth, and breadth is about knowing the wider impact that your knowledge or your proposal has on all the stakeholders and also on the organization itself. And breadth is also about knowing more than one side of the issue. Now, a lot of people think that it's much more credible to just focus on telling why their idea is the best one, but you can actually become much more credible, and there's studies that have been done to prove this, that shows that when you actually talk about opposing ideas and then shoot them down, that's the most credible that you can be, because it shows an open-mindedness and it shows a confidence in your knowledge and in your idea and your position. Finally, height. If you're a lower level member of an organization, you need to realize that every single time you give a presentation to upper management, you're actually auditioning for your next position. So height is all about knowing the big picture, taking a slightly higher view and a more strategic view of where your position fits within the organization. So if you want to make people think that you're ready for your next position, you need to be able to show that you're looking at things from a point of view, not just from your narrow parochial point of view. So without height, no matter how much depth you have, you're just going to be a bright pixel in the big picture. Finally, a lot of times when you talk to people, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is not the most important thing for your credibility. The most important thing for your credibility is how well you answer questions when people want to drill down, or they want to go broadly, or they want to go higher, and they want to test your knowledge. So I strongly suggest that for every important conversation, every important presentation, you need to pressure test your ideas. And pressure testing your ideas is about sitting down and A, not only anticipating every tough question that somebody might have, but B, thinking what your reply will be. Now, if you truly want to take it even further, then think of what their follow-up question would be to that, and then think of a reply to that. So you're thinking 2 moves ahead like a chess player. And if you can do that, you're going to be bulletproof and invisible. So content, make sure that your content is accurate, is truthful, that you know it deeply, you know it broadly, you know the big picture, and you've thoroughly pressure tested your ideas. If you can do that, I guarantee you that all of the other pieces of Max Cred, all of the other 6 factors of Max Cred will definitely fall into place. You've got to start with content. Thanks for listening, and tune in next for Max Cred factor number 3, confidence.